Every spring, millions of people in Japan travel specifically to stand under cherry trees at the exact moment their blossoms begin to fall. Not at peak bloom, when the branches are fullest and pinkest, specifically as the petals let go, scattering through the air like a soft, silent snowstorm. Why would an entire culture build festivals, forecasts, and pilgrimages around watching something beautiful specifically as it disappears? Welcome back to the channel. The answer is a centuries-old Japanese concept, mano no aware, often translated as the pathos of things. It's one of the hardest phrases in the Japanese language to translate, because English simply doesn't have one word for what it describes. The phrase traces back to the 11th century, to one of the oldest novels in the world, the Tale of Genji, written by a noblewoman named Murasaki Shikibu. Throughout the novel, one word appears again and again, aware, describing a very specific feeling, being moved by beauty precisely because it won't last. By some counts, that single word appears more than 1,000 times across the novel, roughly once on every page. For centuries the phrase mostly lived quietly inside literature. Then, in the 18th century, a scholar named Motoori Norinaga picked it up and turned it into something much bigger. Norinaga spent decades studying the Tale of Genji, and concluded that this feeling, mano no aware, wasn't just a theme of the novel. It was the theme. At the time, Japanese literature was often judged by how well it taught moral lessons, following the influence of Chinese Confucian tradition. Norinaga pushed back hard against that idea. He argued literature's real purpose wasn't to teach right from wrong, it was to make people feel something true. And the truest, most universal feeling he found running through centuries of Japanese poetry and prose was this quiet ache of witnessing beauty that is already leaving. So what does mano no aware actually feel like in practice? It's easiest to understand through the thing it's most associated with, sakura, the cherry blossom. A cherry tree in Japan blooms fully for only about 1 to 2 weeks each year, depending on the weather, a strikingly short window for something so anticipated. The Japan Meteorological Agency tracks this so closely that it publishes an official yearly forecast, the cherry blossom front, predicting almost to the day when each region will bloom. And crucially, hanami, the tradition of flower viewing, was never really about admiring flowers the way you'd admire a permanent garden statue. It was about sitting beneath something you know, with certainty, will be gone within days, and choosing to feel that fully, rather than looking away from it. This is the first myth worth clearing up. Mano no aware is often mistranslated simply as sadness. But that flattens something far more specific. It isn't grief, and it isn't pessimism. It's closer to a bittersweet tenderness, sadness and appreciation arriving in the exact same breath, either one canceling the other. It's worth distinguishing this from another Japanese aesthetic idea you may already know, wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection and wear. Wabi-sabi is about the object, a cracked bowl, a weathered wall, something imperfect yet worthy of appreciation for what it now is. Mano no aware is about time itself, the emotional charge that comes specifically from knowing a beautiful moment is passing, whether or not the thing itself is flawed. A perfectly flawless cherry blossom can still carry mano no aware, precisely because of how briefly it exists. Imperfection was never the point. Here's where it gets genuinely counterintuitive, and this is the heart of the whole idea. The impermanence isn't something you're asked to overlook, or accept despite the beauty. The impermanence is the beauty. Not a flaw sitting alongside it. Not a sad footnote at the end. The actual source of it. Imagine, for a moment, a cherry tree that bloomed year-round, permanently pink, never dropping a single petal. Within weeks, most people would stop looking up at all. It would simply become part of the scenery, beautiful, technically, but no longer felt. It's precisely because the bloom disappears, because this year's blossoms will never return in quite the same way, that people travel across the country just to stand beneath them. The shortness isn't a cruel accident that beauty has to survive. It's the exact mechanism that makes people actually stop, and look, and feel something. This idea reaches far beyond flowers. Traditional Japanese poetry, especially haiku, is filled with small, quietly passing moments treated as worthy of full attention. A dragonfly resting for a second before flying off. The particular color of a dusk sky that will look different tomorrow. A conversation that will never happen quite this way again. None of these moments are sad on their own. They become emotionally significant specifically through the awareness that they are already, quietly, ending. And this is where Mono no Aware stops being a 400-year-old literary theory, and starts becoming something startlingly relevant to how most people live today. Modern life is often organized around trying to make good things last, saving photos, extending relationships, freezing moments in place through constant documentation. There's nothing wrong with wanting to hold on. But Mono no Aware asks a quieter question: what if some of your most meaningful moments are powerful because they can't be held on to? A conversation with someone you love matters partly because you won't have that exact conversation again. A season of your life carries its full weight precisely because it's passing. The instinct, when we sense something ending, is often to look away, to distract ourselves, or to rush toward whatever comes next, just to avoid the discomfort of it. Mono no Aware asks for the opposite: stay a little longer. Let the ache and the appreciation exist together, without trying to resolve one into the other. This doesn't mean forcing sadness onto happy moments. It means simply not looking away from the fact that this moment, exactly as it is, will not return. In Japan, this sensibility shows up far beyond cherry blossoms, in autumn maple leaves, in insects that only sing for a few weeks a year, in tea ceremonies held once, never to repeat. None of these traditions try to fight time. They're built almost entirely around paying closer attention to it, while it's still here. So the crowds gathering to watch sakura petals fall were never being morbid, or missing the point of the flowers. They may understand the flowers more completely than anyone at peak bloom. They're not there to preserve the moment. They're there to actually be inside it, fully, while it's happening, which may be the only real way anything gets fully felt. You don't need a cherry tree, or a trip to Japan, to practice this. You can start with something far smaller today. Next time you notice an ordinary moment quietly ending, a conversation winding down, a season shifting, tea going from hot to lukewarm, try not looking away from it. Not to feel sad on purpose. Just to notice, honestly, that this exact version of this moment won't happen again, and let that make it a little more vivid while it's here. That small shift in attention is, in essence, the entire practice of Mono no Aware. No temple, no ceremony, no trip required. So tell us, what's one small, ordinary, passing moment in your own life you'd want to fully notice today, before it quietly moves on? Write it in the comments below. Thanks for spending 10 minutes with us today. See you next time.